You ever look at some of the most successful people in the world and wonder, how do they have such incredible clarity? Well, it's not magic. It turns out there's a process, a specific method they use to cut through all the noise. And it all starts with something that sounds almost too simple: thinking on paper. So let's break down how this one habit can totally change the way you learn, create, and solve just about any problem.
Right now, we are all swimming in this massive ocean of cheap, easy information. Facts, stats, quotes, you name it, it's all just a click away. But here's the paradox, right? All that information isn't actually making us smarter. A lot of the time, it just clogs up our brains, leaving us feeling completely overwhelmed and, honestly, unable to think straight.
You see, to truly learn anything, you have to move through this cycle. It all starts with raw information. Then you have to connect those random facts to build knowledge. From there, you actually have to rebuild the concepts in your own mind to create real understanding. And finally, you get to wisdom, which is all about knowing what to do and then actually doing it. The problem is most of us get stuck right at the beginning. We're just hoarding information and we never convert it into wisdom.
So how do we get across that gap? Well, the answer is writing. The simple physical act of putting pen to paper is the bridge. It's the active process of getting your thoughts out of your head that forces you up that ladder from just random data to real, usable wisdom. And we're about to break down exactly how it works with 6 powerful principles you can start using like today.
Okay, so our first 2 principles are all about something that quietly runs your entire life, even if you don't notice it: your working memory. We're going to see how writing literally frees up your mind to do its absolute best work.
So, what's with the number 4? You've probably heard for years that our working memory can hold about 7 things at once, right? Well, modern research has updated that. The reality is, your brain can only actively juggle about 4 thoughts at a time. That's it. So when you're trying to solve a tough problem in your head, you're working with a maximum of 4 puzzle pieces.
And this, right here, is the crucial difference. Inside your head, that 4-item limit makes any idea feel complete and brilliant. But the second you put it down on paper, you suddenly have unlimited space and you can see all the holes. And listen, that moment an idea just totally collapses on paper, that's not failure. That is the beginning of real thinking.
And this idea builds directly into our second principle, the drawing effect. A really fascinating study from 2016 found that when people just drew a simple picture of a concept, they recalled nearly double the information compared to people who only wrote the word down. That's a massive difference, and it's not about being a great artist. It's about making your brain work in a totally different way.
So why is drawing so powerful? It's because it forces your brain to fire on all cylinders. You're thinking about the meaning of the thing. That's semantic. You're creating a picture in your mind's eye. That's visual. And you're physically moving your hand to draw it. That's motor processing. When all 3 of those things happen at once, your brain creates a much richer and stronger memory.
All right, our next 2 principles are all about how the physical act of writing creates a much deeper connection with what you're trying to learn. It's really about adding just a little bit of friction to get a whole lot more reward.
We've all heard this phrase, right? But in 2014, a study gave it some real scientific muscle. They found that students who typed notes took down way more words. They were basically just transcribing the lecture. But the students who wrote by hand, they couldn't keep up. And that inability to keep up was their superpower. It forced them to listen, process, and synthesize what they were hearing, which is the very definition of deep learning.
This leads us to this amazing concept called desirable difficulty. You know, typing is just too easy. Your brain doesn't have to work very hard, so it doesn't bother to really lock in the information. Handwriting, though, it's slower, it's harder. And that friction, that's a feature, not a bug. It forces your brain to work, and that work is exactly what makes the information stick.
This idea is really at the core of our 4th principle, which we can see in Kolb's learning cycle. To truly learn, you need these 4 things. You have an experience, you reflect on it, you form ideas from it, and then you test those ideas. And here's the amazing part. Writing on paper fulfills 3 of those 4 crucial steps all by itself. It is reflection, conceptualization, and even a form of experimentation. So here's the bottom line. Writing isn't just about documenting stuff. It's about transforming knowledge. It forces you to apply it. This is exactly why you can read a dozen self-help books, feel totally inspired, and then a week later, you've forgotten everything. If you don't write about what you learned, how you're actually going to use it, your brain just dumps the information.
For our last 2 principles, we are going to flip a very common idea completely on its head. See, most of us wait until we feel clear before we act. But what if the action is the thing that creates the clarity in the first place?
This is where this theory of distributed cognition comes in. It basically argues that thinking doesn't just happen inside your skull. No, it happens in a whole system, a feedback loop between your brain, your environment, and the tools you're using. So what does that mean? It means your pen and paper aren't just accessories for your thinking. They are an actual extension of your brain.
I mean, think about what this really means. You don't wait for a perfect idea to show up. You act to find one. You write down 10 messy, terrible ideas just to uncover that brilliant 11th one. Writing becomes this active conversation with yourself. You put a thought on the page, your brain reacts to it, and that sparks the next idea. See, clarity isn't the starting point. It's the destination you reach by writing.
And finally, our sixth principle, private writing exposes the truth. In these landmark experiments, a researcher named James Pennebaker had people write about emotional stuff for just 15 minutes a day. And the results were staggering. These people had fewer doctor visits, demonstrably improved immune function, they got better grades, reported clearer thinking, and even saw improvements in their working memory. It's proof that just writing things down lets your brain build a coherent story out of life's chaos. And here's why that is so powerful. When a thought is just bouncing around in your head, it feels like absolute truth. But when you write it down, you create what scientists call cognitive distance. You can look at your thought on the page like it's an object, totally separate from you. And this allows you to develop metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. You can finally step back and ask, wait a minute, is that actually true?
Okay, so we've covered the 6 principles. We've talked about the what and the why. Now let's make this real. It's your turn to build a super simple daily habit.
It really is this simple. Seriously, forget the fancy apps, forget the complicated systems, just grab a notebook and a pen. For 10 minutes, just write privately. Don't censor yourself. Write about your messy thoughts, your feelings, anything that's on your mind. Then, and this part is key, read it back. You will be absolutely amazed at the assumptions and the weird contradictions you uncover.
Look, thinking on paper isn't just about organizing your thoughts, it's about discovering them in the first place. It's about freeing your mind, deepening your understanding, and uncovering what's really going on inside your own head. Your best ideas are already there, just waiting. So the only question left is, are you ready to write them down?